So this is Valentine's week, and we're shifting our conversation from romance to responsibility, from emotion to intentional structure. And today's discussion is about how marriages and serious relationships can become platforms for building generational wealth. And today we are honored to be joined by our founder and group CEO, Mr. Fred Waswa, and he is a seasoned pension expert with over 30 years of experience. So Fred has greatly contributed to the growth of the pension industry, and he is credited for being instrumental in the formulation of the Retirement Benefit Authority regulations in 1999 and to 2001, while working closely with the Federation of Kenyan Employers and the Association of Retirement Benefit Schemes. And he was also appointed by the RBA to chair a committee that set fees for service providers in the areas of interim administration, inspection, and liquidation of pension scheme. He is also the author of the Retirement Benefits Handbook. One thing I know about Mr. Fred Waswa is that he is really passionate about financial literacy, and that is why we have him here with us today. So before we begin, Fred, allow me to let you briefly introduce yourself.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I have a hoarse voice a bit, but God will give us grace to be able to go through this. As Elizabeth has mentioned, my name is Fred Waswa. I am glad to be here. I always get excited when we discuss financial literacy or basically building generational wealth, which is what we do every day. When we get people at 20 and help them to build wealth, so that age 60, when they are exiting an organization, they have such a huge pot that they can be able to use to move forward in their life. So I'm glad. I am excited to be here, and I look forward to this great day. Thank you so much, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Fred, for that introduction. So tell me, as the founder of Octagon, kindly let us know how you came up about this journey, because today we're talking about building legacies.
Of course, it's been a long journey, but a very exciting. I I started my career in 1990. I'm doing 36 years of work this year, and I have done pension since 1990. I started my career as an actuarial trainee, and around the year 2001. I exit formal employment to get into business, which we did consultancy between 2001 to the year 2006. Um, you know, one of the things that over the first 10 years of my career was the issue of savings. You know, then there was no regulation in terms of RBA regulations. There was only one legal structure for pension schemes, and that was Income Tax Act. The Income Tax Act required that when you set up a scheme, you do a trust deed and send to Income Tax Department. They approve the scheme, and there you are. You can be able to set up the scheme whichever way you want. There was no regulation of women trustees. There was no regulation of service providers. So you decide to bank your money into the bank account of the organization, you will do. So it was such a, well, I could call it a disorganized environment. But when the RBA came in the year 2000 and put together the regulations which came in place in 2001 November, that really organized the whole environment. So we started a consultancy in 2001 and basically trying to help pension schemes comply with the regulation, and also some of them closing them down because some were not even excited about the regulations. They thought that the government is going to take over pension schemes, and we helped those ones close down. We helped those ones restructure to make sure they're compliant. That was what we did between 2000 and 2006, and 2007 we set up Octagon Pension Services Limited to basically do administration generation of pension schemes. And that's how we've grown the business. From that time, we moved into Uganda, we moved into Zambia, and we established other subsidiaries like the insurance business, or in terms of Octagon Insurance Brokers, both here in Kenya, in Uganda, and Zambia. And most importantly, has been the element of training members in terms of financial literacy, because we cannot be able to create generational wealth if we do not understand financial literacy. We do not know what is needs to be done with our money today for better tomorrow. That's what I basically am excited about in terms of doing for people, is getting them to know that whatever you are earning today is not for today only. Part of it is for tomorrow, because tomorrow, when you're not able to earn anything, you will need to have saved enough to be able to live on thereafter, and also for your generations to come. So it's critical that has to happen. Of course, when you get to the dates of retirement, and you are able to access your tens of millions to hundreds of millions, which we have seen people access. I think the largest amount I've seen people access is 300 million Kenya shillings as a person, as a benefit. I've seen one access 450 million Kenya shillings as a member. Then we are asking ourselves, how do you manage that money into the future so that it helps you and helps your generations to come, to make sure that it supports the generations, the Bible says, up to the fourth generation, which is a critical thing for you to do. So this is what I've done throughout my life. And I am excited that even today, as we are looking at Valentine coming through, we are giving out not necessarily just chocolates, but we're giving out information and education that we should be able to manage our money for the future of our lives. So that's what I am excited about, Elizabeth. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Fred. So the key message of this webinar is about building a legacy of generational wealth in marriage and relationships. So maybe you can tell us on your end, how many years have you been married for?
I have been married for yeah, my wife always asks me why I have to think through that. I've been married since 1991, so it's about 35 years. And we basically both of us came from very humble backgrounds, very little in terms of inheritance, and we've been building this wealth, or our wealth, um, just by denying ourselves certain things, denying ourselves some opportunities which could actually do more things, but maybe take more money out of our pathways. So we have to look at it and say, does it make sense or does it not make sense? And investing the money as much as we can, making sure that we are not looking at what we earn today more than what we will earn tomorrow. Our vision as a family, as a couple, is to live our vision is to live the best life after retirement. That's what we decided almost 30 years ago, is to live life, the best life after retirement. The best life after retirement. Now we will live life, but we want after retirement to be the best life. So best life in terms of good health, best life in terms of good money, best life in terms of good relationships. So that's what we have tried to work towards too, in this very particular thing. And also trying to ask ourselves, how many children do we need to have so that we are able to, we do not spend a lot of money on our children and have no money for ourselves in retirement. So we need to ask ourselves, what is the number of children we need to have? Which school should they be going to? Are we going to take them to very expensive schools? And of course, which is a very good thing, but then I would want to spend all the money on those children and then don't have enough wealth to be able to live on in retirement, and also for them to have as an inheritance for their lives to come, so that we are able to live for them a better inheritance than what our parents left us with. So that's what has been our objective and has been our rallying call every day. We want to live a better life in retirement. We want to live a better life in retirement, and we've described what that better life looks like. And we wake up every morning and asking ourselves, are we trying to do that for us as a couple? Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fred. So my question to would be, there's the achievements you've made so far. You've built an institution, a legacy, and also that marriage, you've built it as well. So, did your marriage influence your achievements? Yeah. And if it did, how did it influence your achievements?
A lot more, a lot more. I think one of the things that yeah, I used to tell myself before I got married, and I said, I just want to get married and do away with these things of women, do things with chasing ladies all over. First, so it give it a I got to focus. It focused my life when I got to somebody in my life, and I say, look, here I am, and we are getting married. We are not here to play games. We're getting married to be able to achieve a certain objective. So one, that is one thing. Two is is there was a lot of support from my wife in this very particular process. Let me tell you, we are discussing about Valentine and we are discussing about love. Love is a critical thing. It is important that we must have love for anything to be able to happen between the two people. If you don't have love and then over and above that trust, then it becomes difficult. So our relationship has been built on love and trust. And when I wake up in the morning and I'm telling my wife, look, I'm quitting my former employment, that was through the year 2001. I am earning a very good salary. I was working in Standard Chartered Bank as a pension manager. I would have still worked there and retired at age 60. I didn't have a problem with that. But I told her, look, I think I can do more things and I can support more people. I can support more organizations out there if I went out to be able to serve rather than supporting one organization. And we are discussing and asking ourselves, how then do we do with the children? How do we support them to make sure that we can be able to help? That was for me. My wife was a greater and has been a greater supporter in this very particular process. Let me tell you, in 2007, we are starting the company. We require 10 million Kenya shillings to be able to be able to raise capital for the business. And we didn't have much money. We didn't have that much money to be able to raise that capital. But we decided to basically give out our house, which is basically our family house, as capital into the business. So we basically risked it. And I remember my wife saying, "Look, suppose the business doesn't do well, and I said it doesn't collapse. It builds up. Then the house is gone because then the suppliers and whoever the debtors will just come and the creditors will just come and basically pick up the house and sell it. We'll have it. But what is a house when you live in and you don't use it as collateral and it doesn't give you money. You're living in and you're living poor. The risk is that you can die poor in that very particular house, but also you can give it as capital, and the risk is that it can be sold. So which one is which one? We talk about it in the Bible. There are four lepers. Either we die here or we die there. So there are two ways of dying. And my wife understood that very concept very quickly. And we said, look here, let's give it out. Let's give it out as capital. That's how we raised our 10 million Kenyan shillings in the business. And with time, we have gotten dividends. We have gotten back our house, and the company has grown. We have gotten more money out of the company. So it is my marriage has been the greatest supporter for this very particular process. And over and above that, our trust and love that we have had between us. Waking up every morning and saying, look, we want to make it work. She doesn't work here. She's not even a director. She's basically through a shareholder through a trust company. But it is one of the things that I wake up in the morning when I feel like the things are too heavy, the climbing is too high. I will pack up my things and go to my wife and tell her, look here, I am here. It's not working. I feel like I'm quitting. And she will say, why are you quitting? Where do you want to go? I don't want you here. I don't want to hear. So I remember one day I had a very big challenge. And then she asked me, I have never seen you that beaten. You're a man. She told me you're a man. When he told me I'm a man, I said, oh my God, my wife cannot tell me I'm a man. I will wake up and do it. So it's that marriage has helped a lot more in building the business and building the wealth that we have built for us and for our families and the generations to come. Thank you very much, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Fred. So, from what you have told me, I see that both of you were financially aligned. You came to the decisions together. So, my next question would be, what financial conversations must couples have early in a serious relationship?
I think what I will advise people is at an early stage, you must first of all understand your spouse. You must understand their family, where they are coming from. So you don't just take your wife. If you may marry and your spouse is working, you're also working. Yes, that's which is a fantastic thing. But your spouse, maybe if you are like for me, I'm the firstborn in my family of 8. That's why my company is called Octagon. I am the firstborn. My father died when I was 14, and basically I had to educate all my brothers. And my wife is almost the last one, is the second last one. So there isn't a lot there in terms of support. But on my side, there was a lot of support. So we had to sit down and agree and say, look here, this is a responsibility we have taken on. I mean, the firstborn. I mean, I didn't choose to be a firstborn. I am here, and there is a birthright, of course, of being a firstborn, which I appreciate. But yet there is a responsibility for it. So as a spouse, you must understand what is the responsibility of your spouse, what is their position in their family, and know that it's not when the person has to pay school fees for her siblings or whatever it is. It's not about her. It's about us. It's about us. So, which means that you sit down and you're looking at your finances and asking yourself, how much money do we need? How much money do we need to distribute? Where do we need to? What do we need to put? Where do we need to put? At what level do we need to do? Do we need to do other businesses? And that's what we did in our early stages. I mean, I started doing business in 1992. And I had just gotten graduated in 1990, yeah. And 1990 also, I found my first company to be able to do a couple of things to raise some extra income to augment in terms of the income that I was getting as a salary, to pay expenses that are beyond my own and my wife's expenses. So you must have that discussion. What is the liabilities? What are the accountabilities that all of us have, and we must bring them on the table, and they must be clear. Nothing should be put under the table, because not normally what happens with people, you tend to feel no, my father will take care of them, my mother will take care of them, so it's us only. No, we are a family, and your parents will require that there will be support coming from you for those kind of things. We're Africans, and we're social. And what happens is that we are not going. You don't get married and walk away from the table. You get married, and you're basically marrying a society. We were marrying a community, and that community will require support. So that discussion must take place. So we must ask ourselves, what are we going to deny ourselves in year 1? In year 2, in year 3, for the next 5 years, we will not do X, Y, Z, because we have to do X, Y, Z to be able to support others so that they can be better. Because we have seen people, and I have colleagues who basically decided, I am done, I have been educated, I have got a job, I am done with my family. I will not support them at all. So you are the only one who has gone to school, and the rest have never gone to school. Basically, you're creating more problems for the future because you cannot have neighbors who are poor and you are the only one who's rich. It becomes a bigger problem. So that discussion must take place. Discussions of the future. How are we going to manage it? How many children do we need to have? What savings do we need to do? Do we need insurance policies? Our pension schemes? Do we need to enhance our retirement benefit plans by making more contributions? We had that discussion From day one, when I got married with my wife, we had that discussion and decided looking at things like budgets. Looking at things like budgets. And I'm telling my wife, look at this year, we have this budget and we're going to spend this much money. So how much money do you earn? How much money am I earning? How much money do we put together? Or how much money are we putting in a circle? What loan will we be able to get? What will this loan do for us? That conversation has to have to take place. If we do it as a silo, we will always find ourselves in trouble because your wife is saving in a circle, you are saving in a circle, and you take a loan on your own and do things on your own. You also do things on your own. You will find yourself at one particular point clashing. You must work as a team to make sure that wealth is created for the benefit of both of you, because that's what the ultimate reason is. So thank you very much, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Fred, for that. We have a question on the chat section from Aldrin. He's asking, what do you do if you and your spouse do not have the same goals?
Now, the Bible says that two cannot work together if they don't agree. You get it? They don't agree. So there must be an agreement because you can never work together if you don't agree. If you don't have the same goals, then there is something that is not right. Then um, the period before marriage was never handled properly because the period before marriage is supposed to help you understand each other and understand if you don't have the same goals. And the people can get married without the same and not having the same goals, which is possible. But when you get together, then you ask yourself, if it has to work, we have to drop off a couple of goals and some goals get combined, and merge some goals so that we are able to achieve certain objectives. Because we cannot be spending on the same bed and each one of us is thinking differently and waking up from a different side of the bed and different side of the objectives and running with different side of strategies for the same goal of a family. It is not possible. We must wake up asking ourselves, if my spouse doesn't have the same goals as mine, how do we make these goals work together? If we are in a talking if we're in a talking environment, because that's also critical, because communication is critical in a family. If we're in a talking environment, take the opportunity of that talking environment to talk to each other, to be able to marry the goals, because you must have the same goals to be able to deliver for your family. You are not going to, you don't have two children. I mean, two types of children. One is children for the mother, one is children for the father, and the two of you are raising those two. We have one set of children, and therefore we must work to be able to raise those set of children. We have one set of life. We must make sure that we are working to be able to achieve the same set of life. So we are asking ourselves, what is it we can drop? What is it we can go on with? It must be a give and take. That's critical. Now, the challenge we normally with human beings is that it is mine and I must achieve it. I'm not going to go for yours. And yet, we can't work that way. You must give and take, and you must come at the middle and ask yourself, if this thing has to work, we must agree that I am giving up certain goals and I'm taking on my wife's goals. Let me tell you, my wife we have never stayed together for a long time. She's a professor that teaches at the university in Eldred. I work in Nairobi. I had to decide because my initial stage is to have my wife in my house and we stay together and we think together and we work together. But then I'm asking myself, do I do this at the detriment of her own career? We could say, okay, fine, don't go to your master's, don't go for your PhD, sit in my house, be a normal teacher, a primary teacher, or a secondary teacher, and we'll be together like that. But is that what we want to do? We want to increase the level and income in our house. We want to have all of us achieve our goals, achieve our objectives. If it can only be the issue that I can make travels, which make travels, can I be able to give in for that? And that helps to make sure that our goals then get together for each of us to achieve what we want to achieve for both of us. So it's critical that talking has to take place, communication has to take place, and give and take has to take place. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fred, for that wonderful answer. I'll go, since we're speaking about finances, from a structural standpoint, should couples operate joint finances, separate finances, or a hybrid model?
I think my thinking is that there's no one solution that fits all. Especially so in joint finances, where we talk about joint bank accounts or separate bank accounts or whatever it is. The critical bit is that all of us must be open with our incomes. With our incomes, you can run your own bank account. We have never had our same bank account with my wife. She has her bank account. I have one bank account. But all of us know how much I earn. She knows how I know how much she earns. We bring that together in a budget. We bring that together in a budget. So we know you are earning this much. You have 100,000. I have 100,000 Kenya shillings, but you need some 20,000 shillings to do your own things. 80,000 shillings you are bringing on the table. I need 20,000 to do my own things. I bring on the table. We have 106,000 shillings, which we need to budget for our family, for food, for rent, for children's clothing, for bedding, so all those kind of things, and also for support of our families, our nuclear families. So it's not about you having the same account that will work. It is about having a similar mind thinking. It's about having a time, an opportunity to be able to communicate and not fight, and not talk at each other, but talking to each other. It's about us coming on the table and saying, you have an income, I have an income, we bring it together. I have had an income throughout my first 10 years of life. I had an income which was a monthly salary, but I also had an income from my businesses that we were running at that particular time. I'll bring all those things together on the table. She was never seeking to the bank accounts of the income for the businesses. But I will come and say, look here, we have gotten this much money. This is what we need to have. I have a salary of this much. I need this much money to do my own things. She needs this much money to do her own things, because we also need to understand that there are certain things we're not going to asking, how many things are you buying? How many pairs of shoes? There are certain things that leave them to be able to do. So a certain amount of money needs to be left for non-discretionary purchases. But there are certain money that must be put aside for discretionary. So which means that we are agreeing what is this money is going to do to move us from point A to point B as a family. So it's not about whether you have same bank account or you have different bank accounts. People have come in my office for financial advice, and they have a same bank account. They put all their salary go to the same bank account, but they are fighting because they cannot be able to manage that money. There are people who have been in my office, they have different bank accounts, but they are fighting because they don't declare what they earn to each other faithfully. We need just to be faithful. We need just to trust each other. Why? If you can't trust your wife, who else can you trust on this particular world? If you sleep on the same bed, you sleep on the same bed. There is no need of us cheating on each other on tomorrow. It's a Valentine's Day. Say, oh, yeah, hello, we have flowers here. But on Monday morning, we are waking up and we can't be able to do as a budget together. Then there is something that is not right. We must sit down and do a budget together. It does not matter whether money goes into different bank accounts. So that's my view.
Thank you so much, Fred, for that answer. Members, I'd like to remind you that we want you to engage with us. Please type in your questions in the chat section. We have the honor of having our group CEO today here, so take advantage of that opportunity and engage. So feel free to type down your questions in the chat section. So Fred, back to you. There's something that you've been mentioning during this conversation is something that you've mentioned is retirement planning, right? And we find out that it is often postponed in relationships. So why should retirement planning begin early, even before children or other major assets?
Absolutely. Um, retirement planning is a long-term planning. Yeah. In financial planning, I always say there are three things. One, there are three stages of financial planning. There is the short-term planning, there's a medium-term planning, and there's a long-term planning. Now, long-term planning is retirement planning because you get married at 25, 26, or you get married whatever at the age you're getting married. And if you start working at age 25, some of us, I mean, I started working before I got married. Um, and you start getting a salary, you need to start saving then for retirement planning because it's long term. It's long term. You also, of course, need to start saving for short term things like a wedding because you're going to marry and maybe you want to have a wedding. You want to have a fantastic wedding. You don't want to have a fantastic wedding on people's pockets. You want to have you want to contribute 90% of the cost of your wedding, and you'll be a proud person as a man that has been able to contribute to this. So you need to save for that. That is short-term planning. There's medium-term planning. You know, all of us know that when we get married, we expect that God will bless us with children. Children are a blessing from God. And therefore, we must provide for them. So that is medium-term planning, because in the next 6 years, in the next 10 years, we will have siblings, we will have children in our houses, and those children will require food, will require schools, will require housing, and all things like that. So there must be short-term planning, medium-term planning, and long-term planning. Retirement planning is long-term planning. Why is it important to be able to to start early for long-term planning? It's because the money you will need then is a lot more than the money you will need in the short term and medium term. You know, if you're looking at doing a wedding, for example, you may be looking at maybe 500,000, maybe 1 million Kenya shillings in the next 2 years, because you're working today. In 2 3 years, you want to get married. You want to raise 1 million Kenyan shillings in 2 years. Yeah. But you will need to raise maybe 100 million shillings in the next 25 to 30 years at the time when you retire. So you need more money. You need to be able to put aside more money. And if you wait for the time, if you wait to start late, you will need to put a lot more money to be able to raise that 100 million. If you start today, when you are still working, when you're still young, you will put aside lesser money. You will start with small amounts of money and build it over time. And therefore, because of investment income, compounding effect, that money grows faster. And at age 60, you will have a good nest egg that can be able to buy a nice pension, and you live longer on that very pension fund. So you need to start saving early, because you need to be able to compound it much earlier than what you will do for short-term planning. Short-term planning is 2 years, is 3 years, maybe 5 years at the most. You may want to do planning. You could use even money market funds, to do that, to be able to plan for those short-term plans. But medium-term plans, you're looking at insurance policies, because they are going to mature in the next 10 years. Your child is going to school. They're going to mature in the next 15 years. Your child is going to secondary school. So all those kind of things you can use to be able to plan for those kind of plans. You need tools and products and assets to be able to use to be able to fund those asset classes. So you look at short-term plans. What tool are you going to use? Medium-term plans. What tool are you going to use? Long-term plans. What tool are you going to use? And that's why we advocate for early savings. You need to start early. Please don't wait until you are 45. Is when you discover, my God, in the next 15 years, I will not have the same energy I had. Let me tell you, I don't have the same energy I had when I was 25 in 1990. No, I don't. I don't have the same energy I had when I was 40. Today my energy is getting lower. You get it? We sat down with my friend of mine who's an industry person also, and we're saying, even the thinking is getting late, it's getting slower, like what we used to think. You get it? So the thing is, this is that we must ask ourselves, what are we going to do then? We cannot wait until 60, until 40. It's when we start looking around to look for money for retirement. You won't be able to make it, my brother and sister. Start saving early. Today, if you are a young person on this platform, start saving early. If you did not make it, and you have a good income, increase your contributions so that you are able to take the advantage of compounding effect in the retirement planning, because in retirement planning, assets grow by contributions and grow by investment income. So investment income, if it's good on your assets, then you are able to get a better amount of money at retirement. Yes.
Thank you, Fred. So for couples where one partner is employed and the other one is self-employed, how should retirement planning be structured?
Um, if your spouse is employed, definitely okay. If your spouse is employed as in the and employed in a company that has a pension scheme, because we can have employers that don't have pension schemes. Of course, today there is what we call NSSF. NSSF is requiring that we make contributions of 6% employers, 6% employee. And we're recommending more employers that they are able to contract out the tier 2 contributions into better managed pension schemes, give you better returns, and also give you better service. If you are employed and you are in a structured employment, there is a saving plan that is in that very particular scheme. As a couple, your spouse can save in that very particular plan. If you are self-employed and you do not have okay, I am self-employed in quotes, but I am on a salary. I have been on a pension scheme all through, because what I decided to do, that every organization, I mean, when I started the company, even if we were two people, we will save in a retirement benefit plan. Even if it's an IPP, in a personal pension plan, we will save in a retirement benefit plan. So if you are self-employed, please look for an individual personal pension plan, like Octagon personal pension plan or register WeShare, and you register in there as a saver for retirement, and you start putting aside your income out of your revenues. You can decide that every time I get my money from my work, I will put aside some 10% that goes into that very particular savings, and you grow that pit, you grow that pot. It grows, and you'll find yourself having a good retirement plan at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, the two of you will need to have a pension to be able to live on. Your spouse, if it's in a structured pension fund, the contributions, like the way we structured NSSF, and when we were discussing this NSF structuring sometime in the year 2002, the way we structured NSSF contributions, the actuaries did computations to the extent that 12% of a person's salary should be able to give somebody at least 50% of their salary at retirement as a pension. So if you're going to depend only on your wife, then you remember that when you get to retirement, your wife will get 50% of their salary as a pension. That's what the two of you will live on. So which means the two of you will be living on 25% of her salary as a pension in retirement. That may not be enough to be able to take care of your medical costs, and also take care of your other needs that you need to have, holidays and things like that in retirement, which are critical for you to live long in retirement. Now, when you are self-employed, again, sometimes you get lump sum. In business, you can wake up in the morning, get a consulting work, and somebody pays you 10 million shillings, 5 million shillings. You can decide that if I get a lump sum, I will take a bigger chunk of money and put in a pension plan, or put even in a money market fund. But then knowing that money is going to go to push me to push it into retirement, so it's not going to be used to do other things. I know people will say, I will buy land and build houses, which is a good thing. But remember that rental income can never be depended on as a monthly income in retirement, because rental income can actually stop. COVID can hit and tenants are not in that house, or they are there but they can't pay rent. And for 3 years, you don't have an income. But if you have a pension, whether there is COVID or there is no COVID, you are getting a monthly income that comes to you to support your lifetime. So you must look at, how do I get money that can be able to support me in my lifetime? So that's what I would say, Elizabeth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fred. Now let's move to investments. And my first question would be, what is the difference between saving as a couple and investing as a couple?
Of course, saving precedes, investments. That's conventionally what's supposed to happen, is that you're supposed to raise savings. Then you have enough savings, you invest the money that you have saved. And even when you are saving in structures that are adding income, that are raising income, that are creating income. So you are not just putting money in a mattress, and every day you come back, you're putting around 1,000 shillings in a mattress and you're saying you're saving. You should save in vehicles that are also giving income, but then you have targets that in the next 2 years, this savings has been met. We will have raised 2 million shillings, and therefore 2 million shillings we can be able to put in a money market fund, or we can be able to buy a bond, or we can be able to buy a plot, or we can be able to, push in a retirement benefits plan. So as a couple, tomorrow when you meet for Valentine, you should be asking yourself, what are we saving? And saving is not, yes, it is a SACCO. SACCO is a good savings plan. But SACCOs are savings and credit. And in most cases, 100% of us use SACCOs as savings and credit. Those two things are applied. So you save your money, 1,000,000 shillings or 100,000 Kenya shillings, you go and get 3 times or 6 times as a loan. So you basically don't have a saving then, because your debt is more than your saving. You should have a saving plan, which means that money that is being put aside, and it's not covered by date. It's not covered by date. So savings plans can be done through money market funds. Saving plans can be done through, you can decide that you're going to buy treasury bills, over time. So every 3 months, every month you're going to buy a treasury bill for the money that you have, and you grow so that every other 3 months a treasury bill matures. Then you are able to roll over and able to grow it over time. That's what we have done with my wife over time. So we have done savings through insurance businesses. So of course, our time when we were growing up, we were an early ages of our marriages. There were no money market funds at that time. So we used to use our children. I mean, we used to use children pick banks to be able to save. We had bank accounts where we are able to save. Today I don't expect people to be able to save in bank accounts because the returns are not as good. The interest rate is not as good. So you are able to open a money market fund and save money in those money market funds and grow the funds on that very particular places. You are able to save in personal pension plans. Personal pension plans, the beauty about them is that you get tax advantages, because when you save, the money that you save in there is not taxed. The income is not taxed. The benefit you get is not taxed. So that gives you a bigger benefit ultimately when you are accessing it. If you are saving in a personal pension plan, it's a good place. You can use a personal pension plan to save for short term, for medium term, for long term, because you can access your money anytime you want. It's not like an occupational scheme. It's not like a company scheme where you can only get it when you leave an employer. So you can use that. And as I mentioned, the advantage of pension schemes is that you get tax advantages on that very particular respect. You can save money And then once you have saved the money, you can then move the money into an investment. Now, money market funds are investments, yes, but they are short-term investments. They are short-term investments. They are supposed to be used for building capital to be able to invest in long-term assets. Long-term assets like long-term assets like bonds. You can go and buy a bond of 10 years, which gives you interest. You can go and buy a plot which appreciates, in that very particular respect. You can go and buy a farm that gives you a return in that very particular respect. So those are investments that you can be able to put in. So you're looking at it in terms of offshore investments. You can go and buy an offshore investment, in that respect. So yes, we have different asset classes that you can invest in after you have made your savings through either your money market funds, which are there today. You can do it from bank accounts, but which I don't recommend. You can also do it in personal pension plans in that very particular respect.
Thank you so much, Fred. How should couples manage differences in risk appetite?
Very important. Um, um, Most of us have, and that's given. We will have different risk appetites for each of us. Me and my wife, I have very opposite risk appetite. My wife will look at risk and say, "Look here, have you thought through that?" And I say, "Look here, it is said analysis paralysis. So you analyze the risk until you get paralyzed on the risk, and you never take off. You get it, and you never take off. Um, and yet analysis is important. It's important. I always tell her that you are my brakes. You are my brakes. So when I want to run, with me, I can do anything. Let me tell you, I can. I wake up in the morning, I say, "We're going to Uganda," and it's asking, "What do you mean you're going to Uganda?" I say, "We're going to set up in Uganda." And do you know anybody in Uganda? We our friends in Uganda. I'll go and have a chat with them. Suppose they eat your money. I said, "Well, that's the risk we have." That's a risk we have. We went to Uganda in 2013. Today, we are doing very well in Uganda. We went to Zambia in 2017. We're doing very well in Zambia. But all these risks we have discussed in the house. We have discussed in the house and say, can we take this risk? Because ultimately it's a family risk. I know we run a big business. It's a growing business, but ultimately it's a family risk because we hold the largest shares in this company. So at the end, when the risk goes bad, it's basically comes back on our desk. So the question we are asking ourselves, should we take the risk or not? I think as a couple, you must sit down and ask yourselves, what is our risk appetite? What is my wife's risk appetite? And appreciate it. And don't and if she's risk averse or he's risk averse, that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It helps to complement, because if you are a high risk, two of you are high risk takers, the chances of you going belly up are very high, very high. You could just risk all the investments of the family and you are done. If both of you are risk averse, the chances of you not exploring opportunities that God gives on your pathways are very high, and therefore you find yourselves not having grown as quickly as you needed to, because you are both risk averse. You are both risk averse. When you want to buy a plot, you are thinking, suppose it becomes a road reverse, a road reserve, So all these kind of things, if all of you think the same way, then you will have a problem. But you are opposite thinking should be complementary, So you should sit on the table and say, this is the challenge. We have this much money to invest, and we need to invest. Should we do this or not? I remember one time I was starting a college on Imend House. I ran a college on Imend House called Computer College for about 3 years. And when I was starting that college, I needed money to buy computers, because at that time I was working in the bank, and the bank was selling computers, was selling the used computers. and I needed money. And I went to my wife and said, look here, why can you go for a SACCO loan? And we buy these computers and we start a computer college. And then he says, there you are, there you are. And because at one time I had taken a loan, I told her, look here, I'm going to take a SACCO loan and I'm going to start a hotel in Kawangware, and which we did. We took a loan, started a hotel in Kawangware. The hotel did not come through. We didn't succeed. We lost money. We lost money in the hotel. And so I go to her and say, we want to start a computer college on Iment House. That was 1998. And my wife is saying, there you are. You want us to lose money like a whale in a hotel? I said, look here, not every day is the same day. Monday is not Tuesday. Tuesday is not Wednesday. There are two different days. That's why they're given different names. So today we have a different day. So we may have an opportunity to make money. And when I put my case on the table and explained, and she agreed. And she went for the SACCO loan, and we put money into the computer college. It was the most profitable business I've ever run in my life. Most profitable business I've ever run in my life. You know, yes, there will be failures, there will be successes, but the thing is, you must bring your risk profiles on the table and have a conversation. At the end of the day, let me tell you, brothers and sisters, as a couple, communication is number one. If you don't communicate at all, if communication breaks down, if you cannot sit down and have a face-to-face communication, not on phones, not on emails, but come together, sit and face each other and say, look here, we are partners, we are in a business, this business must work, this project must work, and therefore we must bring our risk profiles together and make them to work. So that's what we need to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fred. I'll go back to something you mentioned while we were starting this conversation. You mentioned that your wife is part of a trust. So for all the couples listening to us today, can you tell us maybe the importance of trust structures in a relationship?
Very important. You see, I learned this from a friend of mine. We used to work with him in the bank, and his parents had aged, and his father used to run a transport company in Limuru, and buses were plying Limuru, Nairobi, and the father decided, this is my business. This is my business, and I'm not going to involve anybody. So even not my children. You get it? So the children grew up knowing this is my father's business. The wife knew this is my husband's business. Well, the man will bring money in the house. They will, go to school. The guys went to school, good schools. They got jobs, good jobs. So the father gets old and is not able to run this business any longer. And he goes to the children and the wife and says, look here, you guys, you should come and run this business. And they say, hang on a bit. You have run it alone. How we don't even know what you're doing. So you've never even involved us in this thing. You get it? So why do you want us to come in now? And the transport and the transport business went belly up because there was nobody to be able to take it up. And I learned one thing from there is that although children, spouses may not be involved in terms of day-to-day running of the business, but they need to be able to be brought on board in terms of understanding what you are doing, to create trust, to know that you are not doing something in a cocoon somewhere. You get it? You're not doing something that they do not understand. I had to create a trust. I had to create a trust company and bring them into this trust company as beneficiaries and as shareholders. So they wake up every morning and we're asking ourselves, how are we doing in our businesses? What's going on? And I will explain to them. And again, I say, go back to communication, is that the more you talk, the Bible says, faith comes by hearing and hearing. Faith comes by hearing and hearing. So we must make them hear more our spouses must make them hear more. Our children must make them hear more. So every time we meet, we'll talk about family, we'll talk about everything else, but we must talk about business. We must talk about how is the business doing. We must talk about the challenges I'm going through the business. We must talk about, where we are going, how we're expanding, what partners are we bring on board. All these things must be talked through because we are mortal. Is that right? Or is it a motto? Whatever it is in English. So we at one particular point will expire, and another generation must come on board to be able to run this thing. So if we decide that we are going to run it alone, and not involve them even in giving updates, they will not even understand what's going on. Yeah. And yet they will have to pick it up at one particular time to move this forward. So communication is critical. Communication is important. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Fred. So I'll go to some questions on the chat section. We have Esther who's asking, how can one convince a spouse to start contributing to a personal pension scheme?
Yeah, sometimes they say a prophet is never accepted in his own home, and sometimes this if a spouse is not able to understand or able to accept or able to hear, sometimes is to bring them in a forum. Is to bring them in a forum where such kind of things are being talked about. I remember at one time I was invited to speak by Nation Media in a forum for men. It was a forum called a Forum for Men. And there are some men who came in that meeting and they were saying, my wife insisted I have to come here. You get it? Now, the wife was always insisting because the man doesn't understand anything, but the wife insisted because this gentleman must come to hear what other men are doing. You get it? So sometimes you may have to bring them in forums where retirement planning is being talked about. Where savings are being talked about, where investments are being talked about. Now, if you are a Gen Z family, so the younger people, especially Gen Zs, you talk to them about retirement, they're asking, what are you talking about? I don't understand it. So bring them in in forums where they're talking about financial literacy, about financial planning, about investment planning, about asset planning, investment clubs. Bring them in those forums. And when they bring them in those forums, invite speakers that will talk about retirement planning. Yeah. And when somebody hears from a third party, they will maybe believe it more than when they hear from a person in the house. You get it? So sometimes you create those forums to make sure that they hear these things. I have spoken in forums for alumni, and I have asked my wife to invite me to speak in her alumni. And when I speak, then when we come back home, he says, "Oh, I heard about that." My wife, although she's a member of our own pension scheme, she's a member, she's based in our personal pension plan. She has a personal pension account which she pays into contributions. And because she heard about additional voluntary contributions and increase your benefit. You get it? When I was speaking about in an alumni of her A level school. So you need to be able to look at it and say, where do I bring my spouse into? Yeah. How do I get somebody to speak to them? You get it? Because that will help much more than you, basically speaking. And sometimes, as I said, profit is not accepted in its own home country. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. We have another one from Phoebe. She's saying, at what stage should couples begin introducing financial literacy to their children, and how can they do so progressively without creating pressure or information overload?
Ideally, in developed countries, children start going to financial literacy classes at age 7. So when they are starting their primary one, they're starting their grade 1, they should start learning what is money and how money is supposed to be managed. Now, as an organization, we are pushing to have financial literacy clubs in schools, where we will be able to help children to learn financial literacy, which is important because it's about culture. If you can culture your children in the house how to manage money at the very early stage, to know this is money and this money is earned, it's earned. This money is not given for free. This money is not stolen. This money is not, that's why we have corruption today, because we never learned that money is supposed to be earned. And we never learned that we can save over time and invest over time and create wealth over time. So when we get to age 40, 45, we discover we don't have money, we have to steal because we are scared of our future. But if we can help our children in terms of financial literacy, at the earliest stage, which is age 7, they go to grade 1. If your child goes to a school which doesn't have financial literacy as a club, which they can join and start playing games of money, start playing games of financial literacy. Not even just giving them money to use or whatever it is, just playing games of money, understanding that you can save and make some money on your savings and things like that. By the time you start giving them pocket money, you start helping them to say, look here, when I give you 100 shillings, 10 shillings you must put in this pig bank. 10 shillings you must put in this. And now, and at the end of the month, when you put 10 shillings, it has become 300. I will add you 30 shillings. So, is that what it means? I will do that. When you have 330, you will buy a pizza. They will understand that when they save over time, and then my father adds me, which is a return, which is an income, then I am able to buy something nice for myself. So we must start creating a culture of saving, and saving to be able to achieve a certain objective. So it's not just saving, but an objective saving. You get it? That will help our children in terms of financial literacy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fred. We'll have the last question here from Anne Elizabeth. She says, thank you, Fred. Elizabeth here. Transparency is a big problem, most especially on the side of men. How then can the couple work together when one party is so secretive to the extent of even buying property secretly?
Yeah. I've dealt with estate management, I think throughout my life, ideally. From the time I started working in Pioneer, I was dealing with estate management. People have died, and we need to distribute estates. We need to distribute money, and we do not know who it belongs to. We don't know who it belongs to because somebody did not even write a nomination of beneficiary form, and they refused because they don't want the spouses to know that they have the money, just in case somebody in an insurance company will tell the spouse, I have an insurance policy. I do not understand. Let me give you a very simple example. One time I was dealing with a case where the spouse, the man died, and he was killed by thugs. He was shot by thugs, and he has the son out of wedlock, and he has a wife with children, about 3 children, and he has assets. Gentleman was wealthy, has assets. We discussed the estate and distributed, go through courts. He didn't have a will, so go through courts for the properties that were not in nominations, go through courts and distribute the whole estate. Actually, I was privileged to do that for both nominated beneficiaries, which are pension, group life, group personal accident, and then also land and properties. I did that distribution and finished, and everybody was happy. And the son comes back and tells me, this woman is stupid. And I said, why is she stupid? My father had bought land in Taita, and 20 acres of land. And he was in the process of registering, and had not finished. We have transferred it with my grandmother in my name. She does not know. Now, I guess that this man, if he was alive, he would have wanted his assets to benefit all his children, not only one. You get it? So the question is, why would you hide assets from the very people that you are working for? Unless there is another family out there that you are trying to work for. I know men can live two lives, very completely two lives. But if the man that is living one life and is still hiding assets, then there is an issue of trust. There's an issue of trust, which needs to be handled. So that needs to basically maybe handled through counseling. Maybe as I mentioned, getting through the people that are close to him that he can hear, that he can listen to, and see whether they can help him to understand that assets are you are building these assets for your family, because when the court doesn't identify who they belong to, when the government doesn't identify, they will go to public trustee. When public trustee doesn't know who it belongs to, it goes back to government. You get it? So why would you work so hard for assets that will go back to government? It doesn't make sense. So the only way I can say, and what I have always told when couples come to when spouses come to my office and they are crying and they're saying, my husband, I say, look here, look for people that he listens to. Yeah. And if those people can hear you, then talk to those people to talk to him and let him understand, so that he's able to bring assets on the table and all of you understand where he's investing. Because unless the wife is wants to sell the assets, which is of course is not possible, which is another thing. And that's another thing is about registration of assets. Whom do you register the assets when you are buying? Men like registering the assets in their name. Women like registering the assets in their names. Unfortunately, when you die, those assets will have to go through propounding in court. And when they go through that process, it will end up in the person you did not want to register in. So why not just register the names, the assets in joint names? After all, it's your wife and has your children, or your husband has your children. If you die as a wife, who is going to take care of those children? The husband will take care of those children. If you are a husband, who's taking care of, your wife will take care of the children. So at the end of the day, he will use the assets to take care of the children. I don't know. Yeah, I can talk a lot more about that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fred. This is such a powerful conversation. I feel like we can go on and on, but I'm seeing it's exactly 1:10 p.m. So as we close, Fred, if building generational wealth in a marriage, just required four things, what would they be?
I think one is candid communication between the couple. One is candid communication between the couple. Two is agreeing on give and take when it comes to different goals as a couple. So you sit down and realize my wife wants to build short-term assets, I want to build long-term assets. Then you must agree and say, how do we match between these two? Give and take. Three is you must start early. So it's not something that you are going to wait until sometime. So all of you earn salaries, and then sometime you wake up in the morning and say, no, guys, let's sit down and see how we can build generational wealth. You must start from day one you get married. And if possible, you must start before you get married. So you're coming into marriage, you're coming into some savings, you're coming into some investments. It helps. It helps. I know some people think that you fear. I mean, I know some men have said, I fear women who have investments, who have assets. And I'm saying, look here, if they have invested some money that is bringing into the family wealth, so be it. So be it. You get it? So we must start early. We must ask ourselves, what is our short term? What is our medium term? What's our long term? So we start doing our short term, we start doing our medium term, we start doing our long term. Let us not use our long term assets to achieve our short-term goals. Well, let us not go to the pension scheme and get money like some of my friends. They will resign at having worked at 5 years. They will resign because they want to access their pension, yeah, to go for a holiday. Holiday is a short-term need. Plan for the short-term need. Let pension be a long-term planning. And the fourth one is that our risk profiles must be brought on the table. Our risk profiles must be brought on the table. That we must appreciate the different risk profiles. So those are the four things I will leave with us on this very particular platform as we exit. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Fred. This was very insightful, a very wonderful Valentine's present from all of us at Octagon Africa. So thank you, Fred, for taking your time and taking us through this session. Thank you, members, for also joining us today. A couple of products have been mentioned today. So before you leave, if you're interested in getting a personal pension scheme, if you're interested in joining a money market fund, you can comment on the chat section, tell us you're interested, and we'll have a member of our team communicate with you. So thank you very much, members. I'd like to remind you that love is emotional and legacy is intentional. Let us build both. So thank you so much, Fred. Members, don't be quick to leave. Chat in the chat section if you'd like to speak to us, and we'll be able to reach out to you. It's exactly 1:14 p.m. I want to wish you a lovely weekend and a happy Valentine's tomorrow. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Happy Valentine. Thank you. Good day.